Will the hobby forget about Michael Jordan? Will the young people that are in their 20s who never had a chance to watch Michael Jordan play, it's been 20 years since he's played last, will those people forget about Michael Jordan? That's what this video is about. An Instagram discussion began, and then a little bit of an argument broke out in the comments on my Instagram page. So we're going to explore it a little bit in more detail, and I'm going to give you a couple of counterpoints to the fact that Michael Jordan will soon be forgotten in a distant memory. If you guys are looking to buy sports cards, basketball cards, football cards, baseball cards, comic books, memorabilia, do what I do. Use the Fanatics Marketplace. Just make sure you use the affiliate link that's located in this YouTube description at the very top, or the QR code that's attached. Okay, so recently I posted a little YouTube short from a video that I did with the great Adam Gray. This YouTube short was he and I discussing whether more LeBron James collectors in the sports card hobby would become Michael Jordan collectors in the future, or vice versa, whether more Michael Jordan collectors would become LeBron James card collectors in the future. We didn't really come up with an answer. I sort of gave my opinion, he sort of gave his. None of us really know. I have always been of the opinion that those two collector bases, those two card prices, those two segments of the hobby, it's not like if one waxes, the other wanes. It's not a seesaw. It's not that if one goes up, the other has to go down. It simply does not work that way. We know it doesn't work that way because we have decades, we have damn near a century of star players in the same sport competing for attention and recognition, both going up and to the right at the same time. Hell, if you need to look no further than 2020, 2021, when everybody's basketball cards were all going up at the exact same time. So we've got plenty of evidence in the past. I'm going to share with you the post that I made. It's actually a comment that came in on my YouTube short. So let me just switch you over. Here it is. Look at this, 121 likes. And this is like less than 24 hours ago for sure, and 75 comments. So all hell broke loose when I posted this. So a gentleman that watches the channel, I tried to keep his identity secret because I thought this was the dumbest comment I've ever heard. But then he realized it was his comment, and he jumped onto Instagram to immediately take credit for it and posted it into his stories. So the guy's name, a nice guy, is the Iron Sheik, S-H-E-E-K. I don't know if he collects Jordan. I don't know if he collects LeBron. I'm not sure it really matters because he's a human being. And he had this to say: I don't think this is true. I think you are about to see people collect LeBron. Well, first of all, he's the third most collected player in the world. So they are already collecting LeBron. And my hand's raised because I collect LeBron on a pretty high level, and not Jordan, which means you're going to have to choose. I'm going to collect LeBron, not Jordan, in about 10 to 20 years. Okay, that's a really long time. I might be dead. There's a pretty decent chance I'll be dead. People won't know who Michael Jordan is, and this is where he goes off the tracks. People won't know who Michael Jordan is, and LeBron is going to stay relevant with absolutely no factual foundation for any of that. So my response, and I always try to be as discreet and polite as possible because I ask people to do the same in my comments. And again, this is a perfect example of a really bad comment. Just like no support for it. We're going to talk through it, but there's no support for it. There's no data, there's no indication. It's preposterous, obviously, but it opened up a whole hell of a lot of dialogue, and maybe that was the Sheik's intention. I have no idea, but my response was, I love you, my friend, and I thank you for watching, but this is one of the silliest euphemism for the word I wanted to use, things I've ever read. We should revisit this prediction in 10 years. God willing, I'm still here to say I told you so. So, I mean, again, I'm going to be 70 years old in 20 years, so hopefully, God willing, I'll still be doing content. Maybe I will have cashed out of LeBron and Jordan by then. Who the hell knows? But what I want to do is I want to read some comments. And so here's what we've got. So let me just start. I made the first comment and I said, people just remember that the hobby welcomes all types of perspectives. Well, almost all. Obviously, I was kidding. Sheik, you're welcome in the hobby. You're the reason that I can make tons of money flipping sports cards because of people like you. Again, just kidding. Sort of. Sports card collection straight up just laughs at it. This is where it gets a little strange because my good friend down in Australia, and let me tell you guys, these Aussies, they know their basketball and they know their basketball cards, especially Jordan stuff and Kobe stuff. Craig Laws, a very big basketball card collector in Australia. He doesn't speak for all of Australia on this topic, I can promise you that. Craig comes in and says, I don't totally disagree, and he means with the Sheik. I think what he means is this generation, as they age, like current 20-year-olds, they won't know or care about MJ in 20 years. It's like me. I don't care about Bill Walton or Kareem, not my era. That's where we get illogical, because you're comparing Michael Jordan to freaking Bill Walton and Kareem. You can't do that. First of all, Bill Walton's not a top 50 player in NBA history. He's not. He might have been at one point, but he's not now. Trust me, he's been supplanted. He's probably, let's just say safely, he's not top 25. He's probably not a top 50 player, to be quite serious. His career was cut too short. Would have been, certainly, unquestionably would have been, but wasn't. No matter what, you don't compare Michael Jordan to freaking Bill Walton, okay? You also don't compare Jordan to Kareem. While you might be able to compare Jordan to Kareem statistically, Kareem's got more MVPs. Kareem's got a bunch of titles. Kareem was, at one point, the greatest scorer of all time. LeBron, ironically, has surpassed Kareem. Again, those were from a different era. Kareem shot a hook shot ad nauseum. Hooked you to death. Again, he did dunk the ball and do some great things and block shots, but you don't compare a boring asshole. He was an asshole too, and Jordan wasn't the nicest cat around, but you don't compare Kareem's swag, his persona, his marketing appeal. Kareem played in an era that is completely impossible to compare to Jordan, just like Jordan's era is completely impossible to compare to today's era as far as how much media coverage and exposure these players get with the existence of social media and content, just like what we're talking about today. So while I get the fact that kids that are in their 20s now didn't get to see Jordan, people that are in their 30s may have LeBron as their top dog. For anyone to insinuate or support the assertion that at some point people are going to forget who Michael Jordan was is preposterous. And I only need to go to Exhibit A, which is Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth is, I think, the greatest baseball player that ever lived. I never saw Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth's son's probably dead, for God's sakes. So I never watched Babe Ruth play. I don't even know if there is footage of full games that Babe Ruth played. I don't care to watch Babe Ruth played. But I know this, the people that are collecting Babe Ruth cards, they didn't watch him play either. And guess what? Babe Ruth's market cap is probably a bazillion, gillion, zillion dollars. If you ask a 10-year-old who Babe Ruth is, probably most 10-year-olds are going to know who Babe Ruth is. They named a freaking candy bar after him, for God's sake. So, Craig, you cannot compare Michael Jordan with Bill Walton or Kareem. That was a really, really bad take. Lots of replies to that. Well, hold on, let's go. Let's get them all here. Okay, here we go. Well, I'm an outlier as I like Kobe, MJ, and I'm sprinkling in LeBron. That's great. I know Craig's an incredible collector, and the fact that MJ people hate LeBron collectors and vice versa, that's all great. MJ is a little different. Mickey finally chimes in with a little bit of logic. MJ is a completely different animal. Gretzky is the greatest hockey player of all time, but you can't compare Gretzky to Michael Jordan because he does not have the same fan base. He does not have the same collector base. He does not have the same off-the-court presence. He does not have the same business presence. He's not in the news every single day. They don't refer to people as, he's the Wayne Gretzky of gymnastics. You know what I mean? Michael Jordan has become a freaking adjective to describe people. Like, he's the Michael Jordan of politics. He's the Michael Jordan of, the business world. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, Michael Jordan is the icon to which all other icons are compared, and that's not going to change. LeBron James didn't change that. For God's sakes, we're trying to compare LeBron James to Michael Jordan right now, and he's not measuring up. And again, this is coming from somebody who thinks that LeBron James is the second best basketball player that ever lived. I have LeBron James ahead of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I have LeBron James as the second greatest player that ever lived. The arguments from LeBron James collectors, they get too attenuated. They just need to focus on the statistical dominance. That is really all they have going for them, the longevity and the aggregate statistics. It's not good. You're not going to get there any other way, okay? There's no other way. You don't say the 80s they didn't play real basketball, the 90s they didn't play real basketball. Don't say Jordan didn't play against other Hall of Famers or he didn't play against good teams in the finals. Don't do that. Just don't say he had a super team and LeBron didn't. I've done videos where we compare the teammates of LeBron James and Michael Jordan, and it's not even remotely close, the level of talent, how much more talent LeBron James had than Michael Jordan. So the only arguments that are in favor of LeBron, and they're good arguments, is that he's done it for longer than anybody ever, at a higher level than anybody ever, at an advanced age, and he's put up some incredible across-the-board statistics, and he's one of the most versatile basketball players that's ever lived. That's your argument. You can't go to the rings, you can't go to the MVPs, you can't go to Defensive Player of the Year, you can't go to all three of those things in the same year, happening multiple times. You just can't do it. The other thing is, here's one thing to remember in the world: first to the plate eats, period. Jordan did it first. That freaking matters. Jordan did it first. Jordan was the first icon that transitioned off the court. Doc tried to do it with commercials, right? Dr. J. Bird and Magic tried to do it with commercials. Michael Jordan took that to a whole nother level. He was the very first athlete that really, and again, Arthur Ashe did it. Other athletes way back when, I'm talking about people that you young people aren't going to remember, but Michael Jordan took this to a whole completely different level and made himself a brand. For God's sakes, Air Jordan is Air Jordan, right? They didn't have Air Jordan before Air Jordan. And then people have just tried to follow suit. Now everybody gets a signature shoe, and then people wear them for a little while, and then they fade. Nobody's wearing Tatum shoes. Nobody's wearing John Morant shoes. Kobe's the only one that sort of endured. People are wearing Kobe shoes. Nobody's wearing Kyrie's shoes. Nobody's wearing Durant's shoes. They're wearing them, but it's like they're not saving them. They're not collecting them. They're not flipping them, right? Not to the same level as Air Jordans. If you look down on the feet of the average 23-year-old, then the first shoe you're going to see them wear, sneaker casual shoe, is going to be Jordans, Air Jordan Retros, probably ones. Sometimes 11, sometimes 5s. There's a bunch of options, right? But primarily ones. The second shoe you're going to see is they're going to be wearing Kobe's. Guess what they're not going to be wearing? Even though their hero might be LeBron James, they ain't wearing LeBron James shoes. And they're not wearing LeBron James sweatpants. And they're not wearing LeBron James jerseys and shirts and golf shoes. And the NFL players are not wearing LeBron James cleats, last time I checked. So to compare Michael Jordan to Bill Walton or anybody else is absolutely insane. Michael Jordan was there first. He did it first. He set the template. He created the template that all other athletes are aspiring to follow, but no one has eclipsed him. No one has even come close to eclipsing him off the court. Yes, I'm anticipating this as well, and this really shocked me as well, along with the Jordan cards getting priced out to the common collector, and that makes no sense. So if you're expecting that people are going to forget about Jordan, then why are you expecting that his cards will be priced out? That doesn't make any sense. By the way, this argument that as time goes on, young people will forget about Jordan, and all of us people that now we're in our 40s and 50s and have all the money, at some point we'll just fade away, and then nobody will care about Jordan. Well, it didn't happen with Babe Ruth. It's not happening with a dude that played shortstop named Honus Wagner that none of us give a shit about, right? He's got the most valuable card in the history of the world. It hasn't happened with Mickey Mantle, who I don't give two rats' asses about, but his cards are obviously exorbitantly expensive. You can go down the list. It's not gonna happen. People have been making that argument of why they don't collect vintage forever. I'm never gonna make that argument. People are not gonna forget who Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Oscar Robertson, Dr. J.R., Kareem, let alone Michael freaking Jordan, the greatest pro team sports athlete of all time. It doesn't make any sense. So I respond to that, and then he comes back with, there will always be a serious Jordan following without a doubt, but yes, I do think there will be a slight shift in the future where collectors actually grew up watching LeBron. We're in it. It's happening. I agree with you. Just a shift of the youth of the next generation, heavier on LeBron than Jordan compared to this generation. There is no question that most young people got to watch LeBron and didn't get to watch Jordan. If you are arguing with someone about who's better, LeBron or Jordan, that person is always going to be under 40 years old and probably under 35 years old, right? Those people are always going to be young, and it makes perfect sense. I certainly get it. I don't ever fault anybody for arguing that LeBron James is better. Just come at me with numbers, come at me with data, come at me with, internet access. Don't just come at me with he's got the most points ever and he's not a scorer. Well, he is a scorer, first of all. So that's because Walton and Kareem didn't transcend their era like Mike did. Mike was bigger than the sport and will always be at the top. Everyone still wears his shoes that came out 40 years ago, dude. MJ is forever unlike any other athlete generations later, correct? Following the same logic, I predict a crash in Honus Wagner and Mickey Mantle cards. So Pal Goat Collection says what I wanted to say, which is nobody cares about those players, but their cards aren't exactly going down in value. Jordan's a 101. There are people in their 40s that watched Prime Jordan. They are a long way from nursing homes. So soccer cards, for God's sakes, comes in with some great logic that, look, we're old. I'm an old dude, but that's a long way away. So I guess the easy way out for this would be, look, I'm probably going to sell all of my Jordan cards in the next 15 to 20 years. So what do I care what's going on 30 or 40 years from now? I'll be long gone. As morbid and unfortunate as that sounds, barring some type of fascinating technological advancement that can preserve the age of Cajuns. And then Craig comes back, but Old Mate's comment was LeBron will have a huge following down the track while MJ's will perhaps slow down. All these 20-year-olds, what's going to happen in 10 years when they are investment bankers earning $750,000 a year and see a LeBron black refractor? They're going to pay $50,000. That's what? That's fine. But MJ who, they'll say, no, that's not going to happen, Craig. You're wrong there. That is where we disagree. I'm sticking with my theory, brother. Current 20-year-olds who adore LeBron, once he loves these investment bankers. They had a few prisms when they were younger, but this 2004 Topps Chrome is hitting them hard. They'll say, geez, $50,000 is cheap. I'll grab that. I'll suggest, man, they won't want the Jordan big man on court. That's just my theory. I just happen to disagree. MJ and LeBron are not mutually exclusive. I continue to reiterate that one can build the other and the other can push the other. I don't think that you have to choose. I think there will be a lot of intersection between those two collector bases as as sort of the tension between the two collector bases die down. And then I tell Craig, of course, tongue-in-cheek, I'm completely joking. Craig's one of the biggest supporters of the channel, NBA Cards AU. He's a good follow on Instagram if you're not following him. And, there's his NBA_cards with a Z AU. He's down in Australia. He said, I said, you are uninvited from my Jordan Island resort. Well, I'm an outlier as I like Kobe, MJ, and I'm sprinkling in LeBron, but I'll buy LeBron Bams, yeah. MJ is a little different. Yeah, Mickey nails it. Bryan, you have his middle initial wrong. It's Michael J. Jordan. I think I put Michael F. Jordan. F stands for, what you think it does. The MJ versus LeBron collector debate always makes me bring out the popcorn. Some cats take it so serious. F you, my plane just departed for Kangaroo Land. Watch your back, Craig. I'm going down there to get him. I think LeBron's a great investment. This is really sharp because this is exactly where I stand. Crazy Kurt comes in, which is a great name, and he says, I still think LeBron is a great investment with plenty of room to grow. Hell, I own nearly every LeBron Silver Prism printed, humble brag, but you can't compare it to MJ, and the market will always prove that. I bought my LeBrons to eventually flip in 10 years. I bought my MJs to hold forever. So I agree with all that, except I'm not going to hold my MJs forever, but I'm holding them for Cajun eternity. Iron Sheik finally comes back, and he wants to set all his records straight, right? So Iron Sheik comes back in, and he says, okay, for the record, this is me, and I corrected my stance. People will still buy Jordan as stable cards to use in deals, but you will see a rise in PC LeBron collectors because the kids of the future will hear about Jordan. They never watched the live games. They are currently living through dad's memories. In 10 to 20 years, those dads are now grandpas. First of all, I'll be a grandpa in a couple years, God willing. And the kids lived through their dad's childhood memories. Well, that's LeBron James. This is not insinuating LeBron is greater than Jordan, just how relevancy matters more than accolades. Fine. But that is where the Babe Ruth argument comes in, right? And that is where Babe Ruth still outsells Mike Schmidt and Steve Garvey and Nolan Ryan and crap like that. And then Starman 101 XRC comes in. I would agree with this as well. I will also say that Gretzky cards remain the most undervalued of any GOAT, of any sport. I know hockey isn't remotely as popular as the other sports, but even considering that, Gretzky's rarer cards are flat out steals. Hockey collectors, he's way off. Gretzky prices are a joke. This is all Gretzky. Ovechkin, nobody cares about hockey. I'd almost bet money to say that guy is under the age of 21. I mean, I'm 27. I never got to see Jordan play, but I just brought up I was just brought up better than to think that way. That's pretty funny right there. Diehard Card Fan says, Michael Jordan, the greatest athlete of all time, flu game, all that stuff. Check out the Air Jerusalems. I'm not sure what that is. Powell comes back in. Powell Goat Collection, who's pretty sharp, pretty astute observer, says, following the same logic, I predict a crash in Honus Wagner and Mickey Mantle cards because the next generation wouldn't have seen them play. Jordan isn't just another generational player. He's arguably the most famous person that has ever been. So here's my question to you. If you polled every single person that lives in the world, how many people live in the world? Billions of people. If you polled all of the adult people that live in the world and you asked them who Gandhi was, and then you asked them who Jordan was, I think more people would recognize who Jordan was. I think more people would recognize who Jordan was than Napoleon Bonaparte. That's just sort of kind of how you put it in perspective, right? No doubt in 10 years it will be Jokic. Google's mantle, this guy says, Google's mantle 52 top sale, right? The guy that nobody cares about. Read so many of these comments, love the topic and conversation, but why didn't anyone mention Kobe? Simple, because he doesn't belong in the conversation. This is a conversation about the greatest basketball player of all time, and while Kobe is a top 10 or 12 player, he has no business whatsoever. There is absolutely zero foundation, factually, logically, intelligently, to support any assertion that Kobe belongs in the conversation with Jordan and LeBron. He does not. Now, if we're talking about his cards, there is some conversation about whether Kobe is a more collected player than LeBron James, despite the fact that LeBron James is a superior basketball player statistically on paper. You may like Kobe better than LeBron. The numbers don't support Kobe in any way, shape, or form. He is a very, very inefficient basketball player, to be quite honest with you. Certainly, he doesn't belong in the same breath as Jordan and LeBron. Here's another perspective. When we're all dead, the Jumpman logo will live on, so calm down, LeBronians. And then Amir comes in. Amir nails it. 3 things why MJ is the GOAT in terms of basketball. And I added a 4th thing. Number 1, MJ only got 2 rookie cards. That's a big deal. It matters, but his rookie cards are not his most important cards. So that kind of cuts against that. MJ's auto is considered low compared with the others. That's true. The 90s era will remain the golden era of basketball cards. The designs are holy grails. That's the key. The 90s basketball card era is an insulation against overprinting and overpopulation. Did they overprint the shit out of a bunch of base cards in the 90s? Absolutely. But if you limit your scope to the cards that are rare in comparison to demand in the 90s, you can still come up with thousands of options, right? With LeBron, yes, there are rare cards, but there's probably 5,000 plus LeBron one-of-one cards. There's probably 10,000 plus LeBron one-of-one cards. So where does that leave us? You know what I'm saying? I mean, we've seen what's happened to his Topps Chrome, even his Topps Chrome Refractor. The print run is a big deal. And you can say the same thing happened with 86 Fleer. And that's my point. There's too many of those out there. There's too many star cards. There's too many 86 Fleer cards. Those are not the cards that I would like to hold long-term, to be quite perfectly honest with you. Are they important? Yes. Should every Jordan collector have one in their collection of some grade? Yes. Are those the 2 rookie cards, no matter who you talk to, right or wrong, this, that, extra rookie card, true rookie card? Yes. But those are not the Jordan cards that guys like me and a lot of the guys that are some of the bigger Jordan collectors in the world, a lot bigger than me, those are not the 2 cards they care about. Those are not top 100 cards. Those are probably not top 200 cards that they're looking to spend real big dollars on. Those are just not the cards. They're using the 90s decade to go find those rare, slow pop, hidden gems that you see once, twice, 6 times a year, not cards that sell 6 times a day. There was one thing I replied. Yeah, Harris, you nailed it. I've told Amir Harris, he nailed it, except you left out number 4. He's the greatest team sports athlete of all time that ever walked the face of the earth and the biggest sports cultural icon in the history of mankind. And that really matters. And I always say first to the plate eats, and that's true. Anyway, so that's kind of it, guys. I want to know what you guys think. I mean, I was astonished that there was actually 2 or 3 people. This is a small sample size, right? A bunch of comments, but it's some of the same people over and over, but it's a very small sample size. How do you guys feel? Is there a chance that Jordan will be... I don't think his values are going to go down in 10 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I think we've seen the market sort of figure out where he belongs. Now, will some cards go up and down? Yeah, for sure. But generally speaking, I don't see the value of Jordan cards being less in 5, 10, 15, or 20 years. Will LeBron James cards outpace Jordan? Sure, it could. Absolutely. You know why? Because he's beginning from a place where he's come down 90%. Literally, look it up on Card Ladder. 80%, 90%. Some of his cards are down 95%. Jordan didn't take that step back post-pandemic like LeBron did. LeBron really took a punch right betwixt the Nuggets that Jordan didn't. So the beginning point for LeBron is here. Jordan's up here, and Jordan never took that dip. He took a dip, but not like LeBron. So will LeBron cards increase in value percentage-wise more over the next 5-10 years? It's absolutely possible. But my whole point is, what does one have to do with the other? My problem is the comment that says that Jordan is going to be forgotten because people didn't watch him play. That is absurd, because guess what makes people relevant? YouTube. Guess what makes people relevant? Instagram Reels. Why do you think Vince Carter is so highly collected? Why do you think Penny Hardaway is collected? The people that are collecting those guys, some of those people didn't see them play either. But you know what? They got access to the internet. They can go watch a highlight reel. They can go watch YouTube. Happens in soccer all the time. A lot of people, and I hate to get off basketball, but there's players that are collected in soccer. Ronaldinho is being collected in soccer by people who didn't necessarily even collect soccer at the time Ronaldinho was playing, but they can figure out who Ronaldinho was, what he stood for, how he played, his swag, his play style, how great he was. They can access the internet, look at stats, titles, rings, cups, whatever. So I just think it's a silly argument to allege that the further we get away from a player's career, the less people are going to care. I just don't believe that to be true. I mean, is it true for certain players? Sure, but I don't believe that Michael Jordan fits into that category, just like Wayne Gretzky doesn't, on a much, much smaller scale, because, the demand for Jordan is probably 10,000 of the demand for Gretzky, just simply because the sports are so different and so worldwide. Basketball's so worldwide. So just like Jordan won't be forgotten, Wayne Gretzky's not going to be forgotten. Tom Brady's not going to be forgotten. I mean, it's kind of preposterous and silly. So I did want to get your comments. If there's anybody out there who wants to support the Sheik and these yahoos out here who think that Jordan's going to be forgotten, please let me know. But hopefully I've provided enough of this one old Cajun man's memory bank to support that they can both go up. This contentious nature between Jordan and LeBron collectors has to stop, because it's really fun to collect both of those guys together, because they are in very different eras. And so you can learn a lot about the different card products, the different inserts, the different parallels. Cards were collected very differently in the early 90s, 92, 93, 94, 95 than they were, and LeBron's still going, for God's sakes. He's going to span the entire era almost of Topps Chrome, the second half of Topps Chrome, the entire Panini era. Hell, Panini came around in LeBron's, 9th year, 10th year? So LeBron is going to outlast Panini, for God's sakes, in the hobby, all the way into the Fanatics era. So LeBron has done some absolutely incredible things. He's got some incredible cards out there to collect. The real interesting thing is, we've got the hierarchy, right? That's just one man's opinion. Well, it's really a compilation of opinions. But the real question is, what are the LeBron James cards out there that are going to be collected for the next 2-3 decades? What are the cards that are going to catch fire? We didn't know PMG Reds were going to be what they are today, even 15 years ago. We didn't know that. I mean, really, as recently as 15, 20 years ago, we didn't know that the 97 Metal Universe PMG Red would do what it was doing. We didn't know that the Grand Finale, the Playmakers Theater, what are those? What is the Playmakers Theater for LeBron? Is it the hot hands that just sold? Is it the retro PMGs? Maybe you just go back to the OG and pull the retro. Is it the retro jambalaya? Or is it just straight up his Topps Chrome parallels, his finest parallels, his Prism Golds, his Prism Black 101s? Are there inserts out there that LeBron has? What about these case hits in this late Panini era? Are the case hits the direction that the folks that collect LeBron are going to gravitate? That's what worries me the most about LeBron, is that, if Jordan's buffet is right here, LeBron's buffet of cards to choose from and determine which ones are relevant is right here. Now, part of that is a testament to LeBron. The dude's played for 21 years. That's absurd, right? Jordan had a much smaller sample size, and the cards were just, while they did print the hell out of a lot of base cards, they just didn't have nearly as many products, and certainly didn't have nearly as many parallels. And so Jordan was just in that very fertile time of the early to mid to late 90s, where serial numbering became a thing, and the inserts, were such incredible pack odds, and we've got all the data to prove just how rare those cards were. So it'll be interesting to see, but I don't don't think they're mutually exclusive. I don't think if one goes up, the other must go down. Any direction for either one of those players. I like collecting them both. I'm going to continue to collect them both. Let me know in the comments before you comment about how dumb I am or how dumb the Sheik is. Do me a favor. A, keep it classy. B, identify yourself as a LeBron collector or a Jordan collector before you chime in, because, you know, perspective kind of sort of matters, in case you haven't noticed, in the heightened political climate that our world has found itself in recently. So let us know who you are first, who you believe in, who's your guy, who's your GOAT, who do you collect, and then let us know your thoughts on the direction of Michael Jordan basketball cards heading into the future, 5, 10, 20 years, and the same thing for LeBron James, 5, 10, 20 years. But I do urge you, try not to comment with your heart, try to comment with your head, because it's always a little more helpful. Thank you guys for watching. Keep collecting, stay positive in the hobby. Peace.